They called it a cultural reset at Manchester United 3 years ago when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer landed the manager's job full-time in the task of detoxifying his old club in the wake of Jose Mourinho. Smiles on faces, faith in youth, a return to United's traditions of attacking football. It all felt so good for a while too with Ole at the wheel. But the sense of optimism that reached its peak one night in Paris and a rather misty-eyed sense of nostalgia were never going to be a match for the empires being built at Manchester City. United needed real change, a proper reset from top to bottom. If one thing has become clear during the club's worst ever Premier League season, through Solskjaer's sacking, Ralf Rangnick's fruitless spell as interim manager and the demise of a team that could have been so much better, it's a recognition from within Old Trafford that change must happen nowhere more so than on the pitch, and United have been helped in that regard by the sheer number of players coming out of contract this. It has already been confirmed that Paul Pogba, Edinson Cavani, Jesse Lingard, Juan Mata and Nemanja Matic are leaving as free agents, and more will follow before the new season kicks off. Dean Henderson, Eric Bailly, Phil Jones and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are among the others who could be on their way as United overhaul a bloated squad that has grown stale under 5 different managers since Sir Alex Ferguson. The club have been guilty of hoarding players and renewing contracts without good reason. They will look to freshen up the squad this summer by making up to 5 new signings with a striker and central midfielder the prior. There will be new faces in the dugout too after a season that saw Solskjaer make way for a caretaker and Michael Carrick and an Erik ten Hag has the job now. His assistants Mitchell van der Guggen and Steve McLaren will replace Solskjaer's No. Mike Phelan and Rangnick's backroom team, and at least one more first-team coach is expected. A fastidious individual, Ten Hag will have his own plans. This is a man who wants the water bottles lined up in a certain way, but United have already said about refurbishing the first-team restaurant and upgrading. It's all part of a climate of change that comes from the top. At a club where every move is scrutinized and broadcast around the globe, Richard Arnold's accession to chief executive in February as a replacement for Ed Woodward was remarkably subdued. And that's just how he does not share his predecessor's interest in involving himself too closely in football matters, preferring to leave that to football director John Murtough, the man credited with a successful overhaul of United's academy and launch of the women's team, and technical director Darren Fletcher. When United announced that Ten Hag had been appointed as their new manager in April, it was significant that Murtough, not Arnold, spoke on behalf of the club. Murtough has a more influential role now, assisted by Fletcher and new deputy football director Andy O'Boyle, a former Liverpool fitness coach no less who left his job as the Premier League's head of elite performance to join you. It will inevitably attract greater scrutiny. Murtough was largely behind the decision to bring in Rangnick from Lokomotiv Moscow, a move that bought United time to get Ten Hag but very little else, and he will be judged on the new manager's success. Murtough and Fletcher will also have greater influence over new signings as chief transfer negotiator Matt Judge prepares to leave United. Although it's understood that Judge remains active in current negotiations and Ten Hag will still have the right to veto any players it would be fanciful to think that he didn't have a say in the U-turn over Rangnick's consultancy role at United. No sooner had Ten Hag declared at his unveiling that Rangnick's 6-day-a-month gig was on the club than it was announced that the 63-year-old would be cutting ties to focus on his new job as coach. Rangnick intended to work with United on recruitment as part of a new setup that has already seen senior scouting figures Jim Lawler and Marcel Bat leave the club. Elsewhere, United have modernized by appointing their first director of data science, Dominic Jordan, who started in February. There has even been a reshuffle in the press office. Everywhere you look at United, change is afoot under Arnold and Murtough. It will take time to close the yawning gap on City and Liverpool that has taken almost a decade to open up. But at least the club seem to have woken up to the scale of their problems, and are taking meaningful steps to